Hello, my friend. You are here today because you want to know more about the Fantasycore aesthetic. Have you ever looked at an old castle or a historical home or building, ventured onto a mossy or leaf-covered forest path, journeyed through snow-drenched mountains at twilight, or watched and re-watched your favorite fantasy film or TV show, and thought to yourself, boy, I would really love to live in or experience that world of whimsy? Now, I realize that these are specific examples, and for me, this is a thought that I have quite frequently when I go for a walk in my woods, or I read a fantasy novel, and even rewatch my favorite films and TV shows, always paying special attention to the costumes and the scenery, the feelings of serenity, whimsy, and for me, nostalgia. And I am quite certain that I am not alone in this. You see, that is the heart of Fantasycore. It's not just an aesthetic, it is a feeling. A little dreamy, a little nostalgic. It's all about leaning into magic, mystery, and soft moments that make the real world feel just a little bit more whimsical and enchanted. Today, I want to show you or tell you what Fantasycore is all about, where it comes from, how to dress in the vibe of Fantasycore, and how to bring a little bit of whimsy into your home. But quite possibly, and most importantly, how to do it all without spending a fortune. Because honestly, in this economy, many of us have a very tight budget, and creating a magical life shouldn't come with a dragon-sized price tag. So whether you're here because you are curious or already deep in the enchanted wood, welcome. If you come to like this video and the thought and time that I put into making this, please like this video, leave me a comment down below, and if you feel so inclined, please subscribe. So without further ado, let's wander a little bit deeper together. What is Fantasycore? Fantasycore is a broad term aesthetic. Within the Fantasycore realm, there are many subgenres. As a whole, Fantasycore is a dreamy, soft-edge aesthetic that blends magic, nature, and escapism. It's a feeling, a yearning for wonder. It's a soft candlelight in a stone cottage, the rustle of leaves in an enchanted forest, or a shimmer of a dragon's wing at dusk. It draws inspiration from folklore, myths, fairy tales, and medieval legend, but it's not tied to one specific era or genre. Fantasycore is a world where magic is possible and whimsy is real. Now you can do a Google search or even prompt ChatGPT for more subgenres that fall within the Fantasycore aesthetic. There are hundreds, if not more, aesthetics that fall within the fantasy category. So pick one, or blend multiple together. Because again, that is the heart of Fantasycore. It's not so much in the aesthetic, it's in the feeling. Within the Fantasycore aesthetic, it's really all about layering different textures and fabrics, embracing timeless silhouettes, and letting your imagination lead you. The color schemes within the Fantasycore aesthetic are as follows. Earthy tones. That's your greens, rust, browns, and tans. If it is a color that you can find in nature, there's your earthy tones. Jewel tones. There's amethyst and sapphire, rubies, emerald, and even gold. If you can mine it from the ground, those are your jewel tones. And of course, there are soft pastels for a dreamy fairy tale feel. We also have neutrals, creams, ivory, dove gray, dusty rose, and finally for our dark color scheme, we have of course black, deep grays, deep purples, deep greens, deep browns, and deep reds. Textures and fabrics that you will find within the Fantasycore aesthetic are as follows. Linen, cotton, velvet, corduroy, brocade, lace, and wool. There's also hand-woven looking textures, crinkled muslin, vintage embroidery, and again corduroy. Think of anything that looks like it could have been made 300 years ago, or by a forest elf. Clothing pieces that give the Fantasycore feeling. There's soft underbust corsets for layering, lace-up bodices, embroidered vests, and boned or unboned corset tops. All of these pair perfectly over chemises, or blouses with poofy sleeves, bell sleeves, or any flowy sleeve really. For skirts and dresses, use flowy maxi skirts, tiered peasant skirts, high-low inspired medieval hems, dresses with bell sleeves, lace-up fronts or empire waists, apron dresses or pinafores over long chemise dresses. Now for pants. Yes, pants too. Use wide-legged linen trousers. Drop crotch harem style for a medieval vibe. Tucked in wool or corduroy trousers with tall boots, layered under tunics or long vests. Layering is key. Add capes, shawls, cloaks, waist belts with pouches, or coin purses, fingerless gloves, arm wraps, leg warmers. Layer skirts over pants and skirts over skirts, dresses over chemises. When trying to encumber the Fantasycore aesthetic, you are not just getting dressed. You're building a story with the layering, and layering is key. Now that we have covered the aesthetic and elements of Fantasycore, where do we find Fantasycore clothing affordably? Now, Fantasycore clothing doesn't have to cost a dragon's hoard. There are high-end retail establishments to look at, and you can look those up for yourself. But as I not only can't afford to shop retail and refuse to shop retail, I am only assuming that you can't or won't either. So with that being said, there are quite a few options available for affordably sourcing the Fantasycore clothing, accessories, and even decor. Start with your thrift stores or vintage shops. Shop your local thrift stores such as Goodwill, Salvation Army, any charity stores in your local area, and any secondhand shops that are near you. For me, locally, I only have one Goodwill, and it is not a very good Goodwill. I live pretty rurally, so to find a good thrift or secondhand store, I have to travel pretty far, up to 3 hours away, just to find something that I'm looking for. So I don't thrift as often as I would like. In my case, I won't just aimlessly drive around hoping for the best. I will do a Google search for thrift stores, secondhand stores, charity shops, and I will call ahead. I will ask them if they carry vintage items. And if I have something specific in mind, most of the time the person who answers the phone will go and look for that. I will repeat the calls and the Google searches, and I will come up with a trip plan. Now that is just me. If you also live rurally or if you do not have thrift stores near you, I highly suggest doing that. You can shop online. You don't even have to leave your house to do your shopping. There are many online secondhand shops and stores. And when going online, you can specifically search for what it is that you are looking for. You have Etsy and eBay, ThriftUp, Depop, Poshmark, and Mercari? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I've never used that website. All of these have wonderful secondhand gems. And of course, there's always websites like AliExpress or Amazon, Shein, even Walmart for your basics like corset belts, chemise tops, flowy blouses, skirts, even shoes. But always read the reviews. Mass-produced items, products, they are always made really cheaply, meaning the quality is not good, and for that reason they do not last very long. You could always sew your own. If you sew or want to learn how to sew, this is the best way to create exactly what you want. For me, I started sewing because I could not find the things that I was looking for. The things that I want just don't seem to exist. If I can find something that I want, it is out of my price range. And I am the type of person who would rather make something than buy something. And most of the time, I spend less money making the thing I wanted than it would cost to buy the thing I want. And finally, there is DIY and upcycling. This goes hand in hand with sewing and thrifting. With a general idea in mind, make a sketch of what it is that you're wanting, or find a sewing pattern. You can upcycle or thrift flip any item. You can add trim, corset laced backing, or embroider vines. I mean, the sky really is the limit. Now that we have discussed the Fantasycore vibes and aesthetic and color schemes, clothing, we didn't really get into shoes, but it is time to move on to decorating your home in the Fantasycore aesthetic. Fantasycore interiors feel like stepping into a storybook or a fairy tale. It's cozy, mysterious, and magical. Now for your home decor, you are going to want to follow pretty much the same guidelines. Let's start with a color palette. You can do warm neutrals, sage greens, dusky blues. Add embellishments of like antique gold, silver, brass. soft candlelight yellow and wine red. Also work on layering your tones. Think of moss, how it's layered with different colors. Mushrooms, how it's layered with different textures and colors. And let's go ahead and throw in some twilight gray. Not millennial gray, twilight gray. For textures and fabrics, use woven throws, aged woods, dried flowers, lace curtains, velvet curtains, embroidered table runners. Also bring in some wools and linens, burlap, even leather accents. Knick-knack and decor ideas. Now I'm going to spout out basically a list of knick-knack or decor ideas that you can bring into your space to give it the Fantasycore vibes and feel. Add some antique books and quills with ink, little wax in a jar, crystal clusters, candles, wicker baskets, potion bottles, vintage teacups, handmade porcelain mugs. Hang some herbs. Use iron candle sconces and stained glass, vintage lamps. Bring in anything that looks like it may have belonged to a wizard, a witch, or a very stylish hobbit. Look for thrifted furniture and curio cabinets, handmade art, or make your own. Bring in lots of natural elements like stone, branches, dried flowers, dried herbs, crystals. Now we have discussed the ins and outs of the Fantasycore aesthetic. The color schemes, the textiles, clothing, the magic of layering, and even some tips on getting started decorating your home. Fantasycore isn't about escaping reality. It's about enhancing it, bringing in a little bit of whimsy and magic. It's choosing to believe in magic, to dress for a world that might just be beyond the hedgerow. It's curling up with a hot cup of tea, reading that fantasy novel, and wrapping yourself in a velvet cloak. Because why not? Start where you are. Add one magical item at a time. Whether it's a lace blouse, or lace curtains, or velvet curtains, or a fairy figurine, or a dragon figurine, or simply just letting the morning light into your home, because you are already living your story. So here is your invitation. Dress up, light a candle, wear the cloak, and above all, keep dreaming. Today's video took a lot of research and quite a bit of time, and I really enjoyed doing it. If you got something out of this video, please like the video. Leave me a comment down below. Share this video with your friends or random strangers. And if you made it all the way to the end, please subscribe. I post every Wednesday. So until next time, stay whimsical, stay wild, stay wonderful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.